It was a desert domination for the Colorado Buffaloes on Saturday. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for making me your first listen of the day. Like I said, we're free and available wherever you get your podcast. I also want to thank you guys for getting me to 6,000 subscribers. Now we're on our way to 7. Let's talk about Colorado's huge win over Arizona. First of all, Colorado's 5-2, meaning they've already surpassed last year's win total of 4-8. So hats off to them for that. They are also 3-0 in their last 3 road games. So Colorado clearly is a team that travels well. They can play well on the road and at home. And let's just talk about the domination that it was. We'll just go overall team stats before I get into individual performance. But usually when teams struggle, they're unable to get teams off the field on third down. For Colorado's defense, that was not the case. They were getting Arizona off the field almost every time they had a third down. Arizona only converted 3 out of 11 third downs. They only had 245 yards of total offense. Passing, they only had 138 yards. Tetrell McMillan, who I said this game would come down to a matchup between him and Travis Hunter, and I don't think I could have been any more wrong. He finished the game with just a handful of catches. He had, 5 catches for 38 yards. So obviously, even with Travis Hunter going down with an injury or re-aggravating his injury, the Buffs defense stepped up, right? It was Colton Hood, it was Preston Hodge. Tetrell McMillan literally had 3 catches on Preston Hodge for 18 yards. His longest was 10 yards. And then Colton Hood held him to just 2 catches. And so they clearly had a game plan, which was to take away McMillan from Fafita. And like I said before on the show, that's Fafita's guy, right? They went to middle school together, I'm pretty sure. They went to high school together for sure. Like, these guys have been playing football together since they were young. And Colorado was able to take that away from him. And when you take away McMillan, there's not much on this offense, I don't think. I mean, I think outside of McMillan, their second best receiver is typically Montana Lamonius Craig. And obviously, he didn't do anything. So their second best receiver had 2 catches for 31 yards. So very, very strong showing from the Buffs defense. Let's continue on with the side-by-side comparison. Colorado had 250 yards passing. Shedeur Sanders was pretty efficient for the most part. He did throw 2 interceptions, which is a rarity for him. I think when I was talking to Scott Proctor, at one point, we had to go back all the way to his time at Jackson State to find the only time that he had thrown multiple interceptions. He did so last year as well, but it was not very common. At Jackson State, it was a little more common for him because he was younger and forcing things. But yeah, oddly inefficient day for Shedeur Sanders in a way, but also super efficient. Like, when he misses, he misses. But when he's hitting, he's hitting. It's as simple as that. And then Colorado, I mean, I'll be damned. Guess what? I talked about this stat last week. A lot of people got upset about it. I didn't understand why they were getting upset about it, but the stat was, when Colorado runs the ball 14 times or more, they were 3-0, or 4-0, excuse me. When Colorado ran the ball less than 14 times, they were 0-2. So lo and behold, Isaiah Gustav has 14 carries for 53 yards. Charlie Offerdahl had 7 for 53. Shout out to Charlie for getting in the mix there. And Dallin Hayden had 6 for 35. Overall, Colorado finished the game with 35 carries for 155 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, the run game, as I say every week, it doesn't need to be dynamic. It doesn't need to be special. It just needs to be useful. And Colorado's run game was looking mighty useful this past weekend. Also, penalties, Colorado had 6 for 70. Not great, but Arizona had 9 for 91. So that's where you sort of make up for it. And then Colorado forced 3 turnovers. So 2 fumbles and then a pick. So really strong performance by the defense. Really strong performance by the offense when Shedeur wasn't throwing the ball away. LaJohntay Wester, Will Shepard, Draylon Miller, they all stepped up, right? Because Jimmy Horn didn't have his best game. Travis Hunter was only there for a couple of minutes. And then obviously Omarion Miller, he's out for the season. So they needed these guys to step up, and they did just that. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about my standouts because, first of all, when you dominate a game like this, there's a lot of chances for people to stand out. And I said before on my last episode, I was like, I think Colorado wins this game by double digits. Now, was I expecting it to be a 34-7 bludgeoning? No, I did not expect a light 27-point win. But hey, for Colorado, that's huge, especially going into a Week 9 matchup against Cincinnati, who's a lot better than I think people would give them credit for. So I'm going to tell you guys who I think were the biggest stars when we come back, starting with Keaton Wade. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by ZBiotics Pre Alcohol. ZBiotics Pre Alcohol probiotic drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. So when you wake up all not feeling great, it's because of this. So pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. I was at a game in the South this past weekend. A lot of people could have used this, let me tell you. So here's how to properly use this. Step 1, drink your pre-alcohol. For best results, make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night. So if you're planning on going out and planning on drinking, you pop a little pre-alcohol drink and you'll be good to go. Drink responsibly, pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day, because ZBiotic will make sure that you're all taken care of. So go to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On College at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off, that is, at checkout. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Let's talk about the stars of the game, right? I think normally when we think stars at Colorado, we think Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, and honestly, neither of those guys. I mean, Travis Hunter, let me just say this. The way he looked yesterday, I don't think he should have played at all. He was clearly still banged up, and it was kind of, I get that he wants to play. I get that they want him to win the Heisman. Let's value health and winning over that. And if the Heisman comes because of it, great. But let's not shoot for the Heisman, because then that's when things like yesterday happen, where Travis Hunter's out there and he looks pretty rough. He still didn't play bad. It was just he was not himself. So, stars of the game, right? I'm looking through all these, like, I always look at the starting lineups. I'm like, okay, who's going to make an impact? Who's going to make an impact? They try out the same guys. Well, yesterday was our first real dosage of Keaton Wade. He's one of the twins that came from Kentucky, him and his brother, who's one of the backup quarterbacks. Keaton finished the game with 2 sacks, which, I mean, it's kind of crazy that he just comes off the bench, produces 2 sacks, and it's like, oh, it's like we have another guy who could get to the quarterback, because realistically, he is now second on the team in sacks. Obviously, he's tied with a couple people, but yeah, it was just like good for him, right? He gets his opportunity, takes advantage of it, racks up 2 sacks, gets to Noah Fifita, who I want to give like a shout out to this whole defense. Noah Fifita had only been sacked, 6 times coming into this game, and Colorado got to him 7 times. So really, really good effort from the defense overall. Then we're going to stay on the defense line, go with Samuel Okunowola. He also had 2 sacks and 2 tackles for a loss. So he's kind of been the guy that I think him and BJ Green were the ones where I thought they would be like one of the best pass rushers in the Big 12, and I think there's still time to get there. But they had a slow start to the season, and now they're really starting to pick it up. So Keaton Wade and Samuel Okunowola, really strong performances from them. Let's go over to the offensive side of the ball. We have to go with LaJohntay Wester and Will Sheppard. Again, those 2 guys, I think we kind of forget about them in a way, because there's Travis Hunter, there's Jimmy Horn. Even when Amarion Miller plays, I think people kind of gravitate towards him over these 2 guys. Well, LaJohntay had 8 for 27, which marks he has 34 catches for 445 yards and 7 touchdowns on the year. Like, he's having a great year, and I think not a lot of people know about it. Will Sheppard had an amazing one-handed catch, and I think for Will Sheppard, that's huge considering his issues with drops. I think it was a drop last week, and then the drop against Baylor, the Hail Mary, where it was like, oh gosh, like, can we trust this guy? Can we trust this guy to make big plays? And then when people start going down, it's like, okay, Will, you're going to have to step up, dude. Like, this is like, you are now the second wide receiver or whatever. So Will Shepherd, 4 catches, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. I thought that was a really, really strong showing from him. And then Isaiah Gustav, I think, again, I'm not saying that the running back room was spectacular by any means, but he took advantage of the opportunities he was given. 14 carries, 53 yards, and a touchdown. I think you really have to appreciate his efforts and his willingness to sort of, I'm going to say wait his turn, but we're going to go with wait his turn, right? I think it's not easy to be brought in from an SEC school like Arkansas, where you've played a little bit and come to a program where it's like, oh, they don't have a clear running back. And then it's like, okay, a walk-on starting. Okay, now a true freshman starting. Now this guy from Ohio State who hasn't really done much of starting. Like, Isaiah Gustav waited his turn, and I think it worked out. He got a touchdown out of it, so really good performance by him. And then I wanted to give another shout-out to Jordan Seaton for his pass blocking. He gave up 0 sacks, 0 hits, 0 hurries. PFF graded him at an 87.6, which is the highest pass blocking grade on the team. Caleb Benson was right behind him, but the starters overall were not that great, but Jordan Seaton was really solid. Kareem Harden had an 80.7, and then Hank Zelinka 65.6, Philip Houston 55.9, Ty Brown 51.8. So Jordan Seaton, this freshman left tackle out of IMG Academy, is really locking it down over there for Colorado. So I think you really have to, those are my stars of the game. I think it'll be a tough one to pick who my Roy Player of the Week is later this week, but really, really strong performance from Colorado. Nakai Hill-Green also had a really strong game. And then Colton Hood, wouldn't you know it, made another pick, right? He makes plays when he's on the field. And so I think we need to see him on the field a lot more than we do. Really great performance of Colorado, who they went down to the wire with this Arizona team last year. Granted, different players, different coaches, or some different players. But I had a feeling that this Colorado team was going to, I'm going to say blow them out. I'm not going to take credit that I thought they would win by 20, but I did say 10-point win. So really strong showing from them, and I really liked to see that because this is a manageable portion of Colorado's schedule. I think Colorado's the toughest point of their schedule, at least for right now, is behind them a little bit. They have Cincinnati, Texas Tech, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But I feel like the rest of Colorado's schedule is looking a lot more manageable than we initially thought it was. I'll talk about that, but first, a quick break. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. Gametime is the perfect way to get your tickets, whether it's sports, theater, comedy, whatever it is, they got you. Gametime picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste your time searching through thousands of tickets. They have curated deals that make it easier to find the best price on great seats, the super deal. They have seat views before you buy, and their lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, job protection, all make it a good way to trust them, right? Their lowest price guarantee means if they don't have their lowest price, they'll guarantee you that they will credit you 110% of the difference. Your Game Time ticket coverage, your purchase is covered with the most flexible service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege. It's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. What is next for Colorado? Well, first of all, they're 5-2 for like the second time in the past decade, if not longer, which is great. What else? Next, they have a matchup with Cincinnati. The Cincinnati team, I think, has shocked a lot of people. They lost to Texas Tech. This is how Cincinnati's Big 12 slate has gone. Blow out Houston, which, I mean, who doesn't, right? They lose a close one in Texas Tech. It was 44-41. And Cincinnati had a field goal in the final seconds to tie the game to send it to overtime. They missed it. They beat UCF 19-13, and then they trounced Arizona State yesterday 24-14. And Arizona State was looking really good for the most part, but I also think Arizona State's schedule or success was a product of who they were playing at the time. They got Kansas at the right time, Utah at the right time. And they actually might have ended Cam Rising's career, not in a malicious way. It's just that might have been the last time we ever saw Cam Rising play. And so they had to turn to Isaac Wilson, which not great. So I'm looking at Colorado's schedule right now. And if you would have told me before the year that heading into the Cincinnati week, that Cincinnati may be the toughest remaining team on their schedule, I'd probably laugh at you. I probably would. But realistically, they have Cincinnati next, which ESPN gives Colorado a 68.3% chance of winning. It's a home game. Cincinnati they're decent on the road. They haven't really had any true road tests, right? Their only road games were Miami of Ohio and Texas Tech, and then UCF as well. And so they're 2-1 in those games. I feel like Colorado has a louder environment than those programs right now. I think Boulder is buzzing for the most part. So you go to Cincinnati, then you welcome Cincinnati. Then you go to Lubbock. I think going to Texas Tech may be the toughest game remaining on Colorado's schedule. Realistically, people ask me all off season, how do you survive those final 4 weeks? And right now, I don't see Colorado going worse than 3-1, like against Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State. Like those teams are not what they thought they'd be. Utah is about a day away from firing their offensive coordinator. Kansas is below 500. They're probably the worst team in the Big 12 at this point. Jalen Daniels just is not what everyone thought they'd be. And then Oklahoma State is a shell of them former selves. They don't have a quarterback. So if you could get things going on offense against Oklahoma State, they will not be able to keep up with you. So I'm looking at Colorado's schedule, and best case scenario, in my opinion, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-0. Worst case scenario, 3-2, which again, 3-2 is not bad at all. That puts you at 8-4 on the year. But realistically, I think Colorado can win out. So you guys comment below. Let me know what you think Colorado's record will be in those final 5 games. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. And that way you could carry on along this fun journey with us as Colorado looks to make some noise in the college football world. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Kevin Borba. This is another episode of Locked on Buffs.